Hello, welcome back to How to Make a Game in Unity for Beginners. My name is Dustin, and last time what we did is we gave our enemy character a little bit of movement. We made it so that if we're within a certain range of him, he's gonna start following us around and trying to basically kill us. As soon as we're outside of that range, he stops his movement, and we get back in, and there he goes again. So this time, what I want to do, first off, I want to mention that in our scripts, what I did is back on the whole organization thing that I was talking about, how I'm not very organized. And we made those folders for all of our scripts. Another thing that I went ahead and did, and I did all this off camera, it's not going to mess with any of your code or anything, but I went through and I went in and I made a few comments here and there to kind of tell us what some of our code does for us. And it's just a good habit to have as you're writing code to just kind of make comments throughout your code so that if you're trying to figure out or find a bug or something like that, and or just review the code or have somebody else look at your code, it kind of tells everybody what certain things do, and it just makes things a little bit easier in the long run. So but what I want to do this time is I want to give our player a little bit more functionality. Um, it's um, it can get kind of boring if all we do is just kind of run around and collect coins. Um, I mean, we can make a whole map with mazes or obstacles to kind of get around and whatnot. You can make it however you want, but really all we can do is go up, down, left, and right. This time I want to give the player the ability to jump. Now, we're we're working in a 3D game, and if we look in our game view, it kind of looks 3D, but it looks more suited for like a 2D game. So what I want to do is first off is give it a little bit more of a 3D feel. So I'm gonna change the position of the camera to do that. Um, so what I want to do is I want to bring the camera back a little bit behind the player, maybe to about right there or so. And then I also want to rotate the camera just like that. And I think that's what all I'm gonna have is so now. Oh, I just rotated it sideways. So yeah, that looks more 3D already. So now if we go ahead and hit play, you're gonna notice that something's wrong. We can't really see our player. This happens because we have our camera's position locked on the Z and X axis of the player, meaning it's going to be directly above the player at all times. So what I want to do is I want to pull it back on this Z axis, and I'm going to set this to a hard 5, or a hard -5, I guess, just like that. And then I'm going to set this to 60 as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to make it so that it always is -5 on the Z axis. So if we just go into our camera controller, and if you want, you can actually, well, let's make a new variable. We'll call it public float offset. And then right here where we're saying where we want our Z position of the camera to be, right after player.transform.position.z, I'm going to say plus offset, just like that. And then let's save our script. And let's set our offset to -5 so that it'll set the Z position to -5. And if we hit play, our camera is now behind our player. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. See, now we have this more of a 3D feel to our game. It's just a little bit better. So maybe I want to bring that a little bit. I want to give it a little bit more view forward So I'm just going to change this offset in our camera controller to, let's say, -4. Let's see how that looks. That's a little bit better. So now, what do I want to do? I want to give our player the ability to jump. So it's gonna look a lot better like this when it's jumping, as opposed to the camera being directly above it, because it's hard to see like if it's actually jumping. So let's see, what do I want to do? I want to first I'm gonna create an empty object, or not an empty object. I'm gonna create a new object. I'm gonna get rid of our our enemy just for the moment, so we don't have to worry about it trying to kill us while we're testing. So I'm gonna create a new cube. I'm gonna reset the transform. I'm gonna bring the position on the y-axis up to 1, and then I'm gonna pull this in front of our player a little bit. Maybe I'll scale it on the y-axis to 0.5, make it a little flatter. And let's make it wider as well. So we'll bring this up to 10, just like that. So the way it is right now, in order to get around this, we have to go around it, which is fine for how we are right now, but I want to be able to maybe jump over it too. So what we can do is, in our player controller script, we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call this public float jump power. And down here in our update function, underneath the last if statement, we're going to say if input dot get key code dot, we want to use the space button, so key code dot space. We want to say the player rigid body, so player dot add force, and we want to add force on the y-axis to make it go upward. So we're going to say 0, jump power, and 0, just like that. So now if we go ahead and save our script, let it compile back in Unity, and we now have this jump power variable in our player controller script. So let's go ahead and set this. I'm going to give it a pretty solid number of 50. And if we hit play, let's see what happens. Alright, so we can move around. And if we hit space, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Oh, you know something? That's right. What we did before, at the very beginning, is we turned on the freeze position on the y-axis. That way we didn't have to worry about whether or not the player went above the ground, or if we were to, let's say, move off to the side of the ground, fall off of it, like this. So I'm going to uncheck this freeze position on the y, so we can utilize that y-axis. So now if we hit play and hit the space bar, he jumps. Look at that. So now what you're going to notice is if you hold the space button, he's just going to continue to jump, and he's going to jump if he's already in the air. So I don't really want that to happen, so let's go ahead and fix that. So the first thing is, I don't want to be able to hold the space button and have him continuously jump. So what we can do here is this get key is what's causing that. So get key basically means if you are actively pressing the key, so it will continuously hold the key down, hold the button down. I want to say if input dot get key down. And what that's going to do is the one time the key gets pressed down is when this code will activate. So let's go ahead and save that. Make sure that works the way that we want it to. Let it compile, hit play, and if I hold the space button, he barely jumps. So it looks like our power could probably be bumped up a lot. That power doesn't seem like it's really doing much. You can kind of see him jittering a little bit. And if we come up here to the transform and we look at the y-axis, you can see that he is going up a little bit, but that's not really very much. So while we're in play mode, let's play with this for a second. I'm going to drag this up to, let's say, about 100 or so. See where that's at. That's a little better. He's jumping a little higher. Maybe 200 will do it. There we go. He's not jumping very high, but he definitely jumped over it. So, maybe 300. Make a little bit. There we go. That looks a lot better. So, now that we can't just hold the space button down to jump, another issue I want to fix is this. If we just continuously press the space button, he's going to continuously bounce up. Now that's fine if you want a game like, let's say, the Flappy Bird. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. But I don't want to be able to jump mid-air in this game. So what we need to do is we need to find out, we need to tell it that we only want to jump when we're on the ground. So what I want to do is I want to go onto our ground and I want to make a new tag for this. And the tag that I want to make is just ground, like that. So I'm going to go back to our ground, I'm going to tag it as ground. And then what I want to do is back on our player controller, we're going to add a new function underneath the update function, and we're going to say private void on collision enter, and we're going to create another one right underneath that called private void on collision exit. So what this is going to do is on collision enter is going to activate this code at the moment that we first collide with an object. On collision exit is going to activate the code at the moment that we are no longer colliding with the object. So what do I want to do here? I want to check to see if we are on the ground. So I'm going to come up here to the top and I'm going to create a new bool. We're going to say public bool and we're going to call it on ground, like that. So when we collide with it, we want to say that on ground is equal to true, and when we exit, meaning we jump, on ground is equal to false. Just like that. So now we need to tell this what we're colliding with. So let's change collision to other, and other, and that with a semicolon. And then right above each one of these, we're going to say if other dot collider dot tag is equal to ground. Then we're going to say on ground is equal to true. And then we're going to do the same thing I'm just going to do this. Oh, not like that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to paste it. And then change this to false. And I can get rid of that now. Just like that. So now, let's check this to make sure this works. So, if we go onto our ground, we have this new bool called onGround. And what's going to happen is when we're touching the ground, this is going to be set to true. When we leave the ground, this is going to be set to false. So that is what I'm hoping for. So if we hit play, and if we look at this onGround, it should immediately set to true, which is good because we are on the ground. And when we jump, it's set to false, sets itself back to true, and back to false. Perfect. That is exactly what we want it to do. And we fall off, and we are not on the ground. Perfect. So now, when we're on the ground, so what do we want to do? We want to come up here, and we're going to, in this if function, if statement right here, we're just going to add into this. Right after we're saying, after we press the space button, we're going to say and by typing in 2 ampersands, and we're going to say and on ground, just like that. So basically, if we are on the ground and we are pressing the space, this will happen. And only if we're on the ground and pressing the space button. So if we go ahead and save that, go back into Unity, let it compile, hit play, and now we should only be able to jump when we're on the ground. So if we hit space, we can jump, and if we continue to hit space, it only allows us to jump when we're on the ground. Perfect, that is exactly what we want. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video today. Please like and subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you next time.